There we go. Okay. So this is just for us, for you guys to have in case there are, Mary, in case there are members of your team who couldn't be here that would enjoy hearing what you had to say to others and what others had to say back. And I did mention, as folks think, many of you have gone on there and changed up your names so everybody can see what communities folks are from. So thanks for that. And I think I'm just gonna go ahead and invite us to begin our introductions. And while we do that, if just to kind of warm us all up, invite you in your chat there, as you saw, if you've got a favorite holiday experience, a highlight from your holidays that you could share, to kind of warm us all up, that would be great. And we're going to spend the time in plenary groups. We thought a little bit about breaking out, but decided that we would just be together in this big Zoom room throughout. So we're going to do our report kind of together. And we're going to start by just introductions by community, and then go into a little bit more of a deeper report out. So let's start out. We're going to invite our community leader to introduce your team and your respective roles, to kind of get through our introductions in that expedited way. So I'm just looking in my Zoom room here, and Barbara, I'm going to start with you because you're next to me on my screen. Would you introduce yourself and your team?
Barbara Klein, Leesore County. My team is all out running hard in so many different places. We're going to be regrouping again in a week or so. So I'm here representing everyone in our Leesore group.
Terrific. Thanks, Barbara.
Yeah.
Shelley, I see you there from Lincoln County. Are you our Lincoln County person today?
I don't know that I'm the Lincoln County person, but I'm not the only one here from Lincoln County.
Oh, all right.
Jessica, do you want to take us? Did you know more about the general of the groups?
I can go ahead and take this one. I'm Jessica Foley. I'm here from Lincoln County. We currently have Shelley and Mark on as well from Lincoln County. And I don't know, but I think Vince might be on as well from Lincoln County.
Good, thanks. Thanks, Lincoln County. Welcome to the table. Katie, let's go to you.
Hi, everybody. I am Katie Malchow. I am the executive director here at the Chisago Lakes Chamber of Commerce and Tourism Bureau. Sadly, the outgoing cohort, but I have enjoyed this time so much, and I have learned more than I can possibly say as being a part of this.
And who else, Katie? We've got from your team. There's Nancy.
Sorry, we've got Nancy on here, and that's it.
Okay. Hello, Nancy. Hello, Katie. Terrific. Amy, let's go to you in Otter Tail.
Hey, good afternoon, everyone. With our group today, Carter Grupp is here, who was kind of not part of the whole group the whole time because he is a lead for Minnesota Fellow. So he started with us in August. So he's here and jumped right in and is really helping us think about how to continue, as we are an outgoing group as well, how to continue our work that we've been doing as we go forward. So thanks for having us. Look forward to chatting.
Great. Is there anybody else from your team on? Amy? Nope. Okay.
Not today. No, we were overbooked. Yep.
Sure, of course. Thanks for being here. That's terrific. Let's go to Big Stone next. We'd like to introduce the Big Stone team.
I can chime in. Lisa Graffentine, facilitator with Big Stone Area Growth. And on our team that we have with us today is Matt Anderson, who's our Information Technology Director at the county, and then also Vicki Oakes, who's with our Ortonville Economic Development Authority.
Welcome, Big Stone. Terrific. Let's go to Austin next. Jane, would that be you?
Hello, everyone. That is me. I was really hoping that we would have more on, but as others have said, crazy timing and everyone's super busy. So I am Janie Gibson with the Austin-Mower County team and super excited to learn from everyone today. Thanks for making this work for everyone.
Glad to have you, Janie. Pine County, Leslie.
Hi, everyone. I missed the introductions. I am currently home with 4 kids in distance learning because of the close contact. So I don't even know what I'm supposed to share. I'll be honest. I just literally got connected.
It's awesome that you're joined us. Thanks, Leslie. We were just going around and kind of introducing the teams and having the team leader from every group kind of introduce some teams. I don't see anybody else from Pine County on today. Anybody?
I did not see anybody else, but yeah. Hi, I'm Leslie Sauter, the Economic Development Coordinator for Pine County. I was excited to log on today to hear what everybody else is doing as they finish up their BBC stuff. We're just embarking on it, and about a half an hour ago, I closed out a couple doodle polls for us to meet for designing our proposals for next month. So we're trucking along.
Great. Thanks for being here today, Leslie.
Thank you.
Eugene, let's go to you next from White Earth. Can you introduce yourself or anybody else from White Earth?
Hello, my name is Eugene Summers. I'm the Economic Development Director for White Earth Nation. And I'm also here with my colleague, Joe Tanika. Let's see, did you want to update on what we did with our...
Nope, that's it. We'll do that next, Gene. Thanks so much. We're just doing introductions to kind of see who's in the room. Thanks so much.
Sounds good, thank you.
Glad to have you with us. Mark and Hendricks. Your team.
You're muted. I think he's Lincoln, isn't he?
Okay, I'm sorry, of course. Yep, I should have my county map up here. Who have I missed? Have we, Mary?
That's it, Bernie.
All
I think
right.
that's everyone.
Well, you can see one thing that's fun about bringing these groups together is we've got quite the coverage across the state. Almost all corners of the state are here. So, and everybody who's in the room today is working on broadband. So I hope we will have a fertile learning field. And we're gonna turn now to the new counties. We're gonna start with our new counties, our 6th. Bill, I'm gonna invite you to kind of walk us through our progress report portion of the agenda. Basically, we're looking at where are we at, what's your biggest surprise, challenges, and what's exciting. But Bill, I'll let you manage this introduction part. Thanks.
Oh, good. This will be fun for the old communities, the veterans, as they did a lot of that churning and trying to figure things out early on, so they can look back now and say, oh, we were there one time. So, but Janie, maybe I'll call on you. So in Austin, you guys are doing a great job. You've got a great group, and we've had our project meeting. What would you say, what's the biggest surprise, and what do you see as the biggest challenges going forward? And then what are you most excited about? Just a minute or two of your thoughts on kind of where you are right now.
Great. Thanks, Bill. I think I'm excited to go first. No, it's been quite the adventure. So just for a little bit of background, Austin is located in southern Minnesota. We're a smaller community with what some would call urban community demographics. Our school district is just over 5,000 students. And of course, that's not representative of our entire community, but within the 5,000 students, we have, depending on the day, between 45 and 50 home languages served in our schools. And so we have a very diverse community. We also are fortunate to have a resource-rich community in that we have Hormel Foods, Hormel Foundation, and Mayo Clinic, who are wonderful. However, it does also create these unique characteristics and quality in our community. So what has been wonderful is to see the interest that everybody wants to come to the table, the virtual table, of course, and have a say and have a voice. I think the biggest challenge might be narrowing it down to what can really get leverage and legs under it, as Bill likes to say, and really move into a sustainable, actionable type of an item. So really excited to learn from some of you veterans that have lived this and gone through it, and I will be frantically taking notes so that I can be teed up to better facilitate this and guide it as we go forward. So I don't know if that's what you were hoping for, Bill, or?
No, that's great. I guess I'd ask what project idea are you most excited about so far?
I'm really excited. I'm excited to hear more about the Zoom rooms, because that is definitely something that has come up, these small meeting areas. I also curious if one of the big things that has come up is the need to work on two-way communication, utilizing technology platforms with our apprehension about using artificial intelligence. It's just this interesting thing. So curious to hear anything that might come through from those on the screen that have some experience in this, as well as constantly looking for ways to expand reliable, affordable connectivity throughout our community.
Good, thanks, Janie. Let's go to Lisa with Big Stone.
Great. In terms of Big Stone County, so Big Stone County, we're located on the bump of Western Minnesota. And so if you want to learn more about us, you can go to mnbump.com to find out more on Big Stone County. In terms of our team, I would say where we're at in the process is that we've went through all of our project ideas. We have that grouped into 4 main categories and have teams all set up, and hope to have those teams meeting here within the next week or so to start kind of talking through those project ideas. We had a great list, I think, again, over 30 different ideas that came up. And so we've got those grouped and ready to go. I think some of the biggest surprises is that, you know, we've really, when we initially started this, we had very, I think, low interest. We were really struggling to get some people on our steering team. It was very heavily government focused with our steering team. And so we had some concerns about whether or not we were able to get that broad community engagement, and we ended up having a lot of success. And so we had well over 35 people participating in some of the meetings and voting process from really a good cross section of the community. So it was really good to see that. It was a surprise based on how we kind of started the process.
What's your secret?
You know, it was really, a lot of it was that personal connections. And so it was the fact that, you know, well, again, while our steering team was heavily government focused, everyone in that steering team really stepped up to the plate and made a list of who they knew, who they would contact, and really took the time to do that one-on-one outreach to those, you know, again, business owners, the schools, the facilities. And so again, a great steering team. So while the team was, you know, heavily government focused, everyone really put in a lot of effort into that outreach and made all those connections. So that was a big part of that. In terms of I would say again, that was kind of one of our biggest challenges that we kind of started with. The timelines, it's good and bad. You know, it sometimes feels very like rushed, like we're trying to quickly get through this, but I think that helps keep the momentum going too, that it's not a long drawn out process as well. So I think that, again, that's good. And Zoom is sometimes still a bit challenging, even though we've been in this Zoom platform now for a couple of years. It's still challenging to some individuals that we're trying to engage, and some people are still used to that in-person interaction. And in terms of the things that I think I'm most excited about personally is I think some of the really neat ideas came out about how we can work with our art community. We have such a strong art community, and helping them use technology to really expand the way that they're able to grow their businesses and reach people outside of Big Stone County. Some really neat projects too were identified, you know, helping our underserved populations, whether that's, you know, reaching, you know, masses of low to moderate income people in like our public housing, thinking about ways we can improve telehealth for people that maybe don't have access to technology. So a lot of a strong diversity of ideas, but just really good ideas too that kind of focused on some neat economic development, but also kind of how we better work with our underserved population to get them connected.
Good. Thank you so much. Thanks, Lisa. You're doing a great job. So, Leslie.
Sorry about that. I had to find the unmute button. We're gathering our couple groups in the next couple weeks. It particularly related around broadband. After our broadband consultant gives their presentation to the county boards, we hired Hometown Fiber to do an assessment of what exists in Pine County, because we know stuff's there. We just not sure why it's not working appropriately. And once that presentation is done, then we're hoping we can tailor a nice proposal to the foundation to help us work on some of those lower hanging fruits to get people better connections. We're also looking at kind of an innovation project where we start pulling in the talents in our community to help people use technology better, whether it's a business getting on Google, using social media better. We have people in our community that are really good at it, and then people are not very good at it. And we're hoping almost to kind of create those, it's almost like the economic gardening concept where you get people together and they're good at one thing and they can help someone problem solve through another, be that, you know, a partnership with Pine Technical Community College and their students, or other employers that have like a robust marketing department that can help a smaller business get out on the web and do some web development or just social media stuff. So we're kind of going down two very parallel paths, but more to come, I guess, in the next month, because we kind of got to hash out those details at our upcoming meetings.
Good, thank you so much. And Matthew and Warroad, you guys are just getting going here. So we have our big vision meeting on Friday. So looking forward to that. What are your thoughts so far?
So far, everything seems to be going well. Yeah, sorry. Just, yeah, no, I think so. Okay. Well, Mary says you've got about 20 plus people signed up for Friday. So hopefully a few more by Friday, but can you describe kind of your process of getting going and spreading the word throughout your community?
Yeah, it's been a lot of like just direct contact with people, working with them to just try to get them on board and help us see the same vision that we are. And sometimes it's kind of hard to do that when you're talking about such an intense project like broadband in such a rural and small community. Because naturally people talk about what's the price tag on that, and trying to say, hey, we're going to try to do this without the cost falling back on you is really, really hard to persuade people on. But the more that conversations happen, I think the more that people have gotten on board, and I think that's going to lead to a really good visioning session here in the end of the week, or in the next week, or the end of this week. Because just think that we've got a lot of good reception, and people are, I think, curious, which is, I think, the best position we can be in.
Great, thank you for that. Good, so that's it, Bernie. You're muted.
I'm muted. Hey, where's that mute button? So veterans, hearing what you did about our newbies, you got any initial thoughts or any reactions, or sound familiar? Katie?
Yes, I had two thoughts. One was that I'm not joking. I'm a little bit jealous that you get to start this process. Where you are at right now and where I was at 2 years ago when we began this, I had no idea what was going to come my way and how much I was going to learn and how much the information I was going to gain was going to be able to help my community. And that's just a super exciting precipice to be standing at. So even if it feels overwhelming, just know that you're going to take on so much incredible information that's going to be so impactful to the people that you love and care about in your communities. The other thing, like a little bit of advice, I guess maybe I would say, is Nancy Hoffman is on this call too. And Nancy and I are both very interested and engaged in this broadband sort of trailblazing, but we're also employed to be interested in that. I think sometimes when you are leaning solely on volunteers, your interest, any way that you're going to make in this is also going to be sort of competing with after school sports or, family time on the evenings and weekends. And if you can align yourselves with people that are also, this is a part of their job, I think that will help you gain more momentum and get further faster.
Yeah, thanks, Katie. And I guess I want to just pause a minute before we go on and talk about and hear more from our outgoing BBCs, because to focus on the beginning part and getting a good team in place, going slow to go fast, as Bill often quotes me to say, that it really is important in our experience that you have a good team to hold hands with. not to say that you don't continue building and growing your team as you go. And some of the outgoing BBCs have been at this for a long time, and paying attention that leadership pipeline is really important. I'm just wondering if anybody else among our veterans have any other, in the spirit of what Katie shared, advice about recruiting and supporting and keeping a team of volunteers going, especially in our COVID reality. Anybody?
This is Barbara from Le County. I think the thing that I did not anticipate and wish I had thought of that initially is that we had a terrific energized group initially with 60 people on a Zoom call, many of whom we've never met, some of whom we've never met yet. We've never anticipated that it would be this long, that we had one face-to-face meeting, which I'll talk about a little bit later, but a lot of staff changes. At the county, almost everyone has changed. At the schools, almost everyone has changed. So the recruitment factor is continual. And just keep that in mind, because we're going to be in continual transition for a while yet. We thought we had a great team, and we do have a great team. They're all really run hard and run out, and we're connecting in ways that we would never have thought of before, but we haven't been able to do the group things we thought we were going to be able to do. And that's really a challenge. And supporting people who are really burning out on many, many fronts. And we've continued to do that because we did have a good base and we did have a good starting point. But we're just continually recruiting people to work on it because of the situation we're in.
Yeah. Nancy, I'm going to call on you to talk to us about burnout, because Nancy's been at this almost as long as Bill and I have, and still an Energizer bunny. I don't know if others of you know this, that Nancy is the inaugural president of the Minnesota Rural Broadband Coalition. So first person to step up and really help get that organization up and going. Nancy, what are your thoughts about, and you could either speak about your own engagement and just keeping a team going. You're so good at that.
I think sometimes the obvious people are not the ones that end up being the hardest workers with you. It's really finding people's passions and finding the champions, and then supporting them as much as you can and let them try to get things going. I think there are people that are very passionate about this, and they keep on going if they could, and do, as far as advocating for broadband and trying to get it in their communities. So yeah, just really trying to find those champions and supporting them. And like I say, sometimes they're not the obvious one. For instance, at the school, you contact the superintendent, and who knows where that's going to lead to the person that's going to be the one that is partnering with you and really digging in.
Yeah, maybe it's the gym coach or the nurse or the shop teacher or something. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good. Well, in a lot of the work that I do, I'm involved in serve on a couple of boards and other organizations, and boy, you just cannot take your eye off that ball of leadership development, and always trying to be attentive to who else can you bring along with you. And one of the I don't know, I was going to say tricks, I don't mean it to sound nefarious like that, but something that sometimes works is to encourage everybody to bring a friend. Someone just lean on and bring another friend, have a friends night. And sometimes that can be, making it, because it's about the people. I think if people do this because they care about broadband, but also really at the end because of the relationships at the table, I think so. Go ahead, Nance.
Bernadine, sorry to cut in. You just kind of got me thinking, or as I was thinking about this, oh my gosh, I just lost it. Never mind. I'm so sorry. I just blanked.
That happens to me all the time. It'll come back to you.
Okay.
At your age, Nancy.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm so sorry. That was so strange.
So the one other thing before we move on that I wanted to kind of put out there for us to, as the larger group, feels like such a unique opportunity to have this conversation, is the impact of COVID on trying to do community projects and moving forward together, just with all the noise, all the challenges, and the technology piece layered on top of that. Does anybody have any tips to share, or something that worked or is working, or about responding and trying to do community work in this COVID era that's new?
I think as far as that work is considered, it's probably a good idea to keep your group size smaller, I would say, especially when using platforms like Zooms, Google Meet, and Teams. And if possible, meet those champions within your community directly. I think that that's the best way still to provide change and to get people on board. A lot of times they say that there's strength in numbers, and while that might be true, there's a lot of strength in having a lot of people, or a smaller amount of people who are really dedicated to the cause. And strength in numbers and numbers, pure sheer magnitude, can actually weigh down a project, and it can lead to the things that we've talked about, such as burnout. Oftentimes when there are too many people in a room, and I know this from college as well, is that people will tune out and they won't be involved in it. So while I agree that it's good to have a lot of people logistically on board with your project areas, I think identifying just a few people who have enough access points within that industry, whatever it is, whether they're in the schools, the libraries, et cetera, to really be your champions and build those lasting relationships with them.
Mm-hmm. Thanks. Bill, I'm going to call on you because you're working, as many of us know, in other states now outside of Minnesota. You got any reflections you can offer back to Minnesota from stuff you're seeing that's working well and trying to build teams from nothing in COVID?
Minnesota should thank its lucky stars for the Blandon Foundation. Because when I go to these other states, the community, the infrastructure support, and I guess I'd broaden that out to even the McKnight Foundation, the fact that the initiative foundations are in place, that I'm working now in 4 other states, and there's nothing like the rural infrastructure. And I would even spread out to say the RDCs here in Minnesota are a great place that has built regional linkages and community capacity. But I think on broadband, there's places that I'm talking to now that the mindsets are back of 10 years ago in terms of, community should be involved in broadband. It's just a message that isn't as established. And people are saying, well, what's the first step? And, the fact that, so that's, I don't see anything to learn from some of these other states, and bigger, smaller, doesn't really matter. They're just, whether it's Illinois or Ohio or.
I always hate that when you go to national meetings and people go, you in Minnesota have it going on, like you're just, and I'm thinking, and we've got so many issues here, it's just, you always want there to be some hope. Somebody else has got it figured out better than we do.
Good. Let's go to our projects.
Okay, let's do that. Bill, why don't you steer this part?
Good. Amy, everyone wants to hear about the Zoom rooms.
I guess, but I think it was a Janie, and then she had to drop off. I can't remember exactly. Maybe hopefully whoever did. Yeah,
Janie. Yeah, but she's going to listen to the recording.
Great. Well, yeah, we were going to highlight a couple of projects that we have worked on. One being the smart rooms or Zoom rooms, as referenced from a time frame when we were developing these projects was in, people were still very much home, working remote as able, so but thinking, you know, it was identified kind of both pre and post as we thought about this. So I think I'm able to share my screen. If not, I'm going to show a just a mapping tool that we're putting together on those. So for those who maybe, you know, it's kind of a made up name, a smart room or Zoom room, but it's a technology rich meeting space that we worked first with our CARES Act dollars and then looked kind of geographically and to make sure we were serving all of our populations to build out some of these spaces throughout the county so that people have the ability to access both from a technology and a quality, reliable connection point for, you know, job interviews, education needs, health care, you know, virtual meetings, you know, that all of those things so that, again, people are able to access these free spaces throughout the county. So I'm going to just quickly share, I think, here we go. All right, so this is a new tool. It's not out yet, so I'm not going to send you the link, but worked with our GIS department. You can see this is Otter County here on the map, and we now have 10 either soon. We were impacted by supply chain issues and not able to get some of the technology for the final spaces that are being built out. But this is a story map that our GIS team was able to put together where you can look within the community, click on it. Here's one of the Fergus Falls Public Library spaces, shows the technology that they have, how to contact them, if there's you know, occupancy numbers. They have a variety of rooms there. That's one of the bigger ones. But even to the city of Otter Tail, which is one word, as we were talking earlier. And you know, they have a smaller space. So we're just getting some of the final details here put together, but this will be a mapping tool that will also have public Wi-Fi spaces added to it. So we're there'll be a second tab that will include public Wi-Fi spaces as well. So this is a kind of a piece that we're continuing to advance as we move forward on that. So just wanted to show that as a tool that we're working on. But we worked with our communities. A lot of them were unused or limited use meeting spaces, either in city halls, community centers, libraries, certainly expanding what libraries had in their meeting rooms. Some other public spaces, our historical society will have more of a mobile system in theirs, and in a community where they're kind of a big hole in access to high-speed internet on the east side of the county. We actually worked with another nonprofit to build up some space in their building. So still will be available to the public, you know, free of charge. Some, if you're using it for private use, there are some that charge. So if you were a business going to rent it out for a meeting or reserve it, there may be a small charge for that. But if you're just a general resident or community member, you can access the spaces for your personal use free of charge. So those are the smart rooms. I can answer any questions, and Carter, please jump in with any details that I missed in that high level review.
Amy, what's your budget for each of those rooms?
Oh, sure. So it depends on the size and the scale. Some of them were upgrade material or upgrade systems. Probably though in the range of 10,000. I would say. Does that sound right, Carter?
Yeah, but we did find comparable equipment through different suppliers and vendors and contractors. That would obviously take a little bit more of a waiting time with the supply chain crisis. But we've seen some in the 4 or 5 range. It would depend on what's existing at the facility. And I think if you decrease the number per room, you can obviously have more rooms. So I think there's some advantages to finding equipment that is similar in function and ability at a cheaper price point. I think that that's a good way to get as much of it out there as possible.
Yeah, we did try to, as best we could, use consistent equipment because we aren't providing ongoing support. So trying to create, you know, little easy user sheets, you know, instruction sheets for the person who might walk into the space off the street and not have as much familiarity. So those are things we're also making sure that each room has that. And the initial ones were built out via Viking library system. our area regional library system. And so they are providing a little bit of tech support on that. But the second half of the ones that we used some of the funding from Blandon on are just standalone. I mean, we entered into an agreement with the organization that basically says you are taking ownership of this. We have some criteria, you know, for making sure it remains public and open and available, but not taking responsibility for the maintenance and tech support for the product.
If you guys could provide a list of equipment, that would be really cool. You know, just what's kind of the standard things that go into each room.
Oh, I could put that together for you. Did you want me to email that to you, Bill?
Yeah, send it to Mary.
Great, I can do that.
Good, thank you.
I'd definitely
be interested in seeing what equipment is there. As far as what platform are you using? Is it like a BYOD kind of computer hooked to it, or is it Zoom built in like a Logitech Tap?
It would depend on the TV. Obviously, some TVs are smart TVs, but we've bought micro PCs that we've been able to put a device into it that makes it Bluetooth capable with a mouse and a audio video system. I can send out a list of the type of equipment we pursued. I think the goal was to make sure that all of the rooms had up-to-date and industry-grade audio video equipment that could be used via Bluetooth. So, and a lot of it has cameras and webcams on the actual system. Some of them are spherical, so you get this big spherical view of the room. It's really nice. So we could send that out. I'll put something together for you guys.
Okay. The only other question I had was, how are you handling like the public scheduling the Zoom meetings and stuff like that? Are you providing like a Zoom license with the room, or how is that working?
No, we aren't. We have, most of them have like a user agreement, you know, that they sign off on to know what they can do, but you do have to bring your own license or use a free service on that. So it's really like Carter mentioned, there's a micro PC, so it's, you know, compatible to Teams or Zoom, you know, it just depends on what the person brings with them. Yeah, I don't, and maybe there's 2 city halls that are hosting spaces. They may be, I haven't heard that they're opening up their, you know, the use of their login, but that's a good question.
Okay, so it's kind of like a Intel Nook with a kind of integrated camera speaker kind of deal.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Thanks, Matt. 2 quick questions for me, Amy. Are you requiring or asking that your partners keep track of the usage, and what kind of demand are you experiencing?
Sure. So one of the big pushes right now with the, you know, I highlighted that mapping tool is really the promotion of it. We spent a lot of time getting things put in place and installed, and we're now this year, we do still have a couple that are coming soon because of those micro PCs. Those are the back order items that we're waiting on right now. But we'll be pushing out in 2022. Another target audience that I didn't mention are our seasonal visitors, which we know their stays have, when they come to visit, it used to be Memorial Day to Labor Day. Well, now it's April to October. You know, we're experiencing longer because people are able to do some work remotely. We're also highlighting this for that audience. So if you need to come and be able to spend more time as a visitor here in Otter Tail County, to know that you can work here and you know, that slow drip of getting them to hopefully come move here eventually. But that's it. So that it'll be highlighted in our tourism magazine that'll come out here the end of the month. And so we have information there that'll link back to that mapping tool that I highlighted. And so that's another audience, I guess I didn't mention before. So, but we should, now that things are kind of set up and operating, start that tracking system, but we haven't asked people to report back. Our libraries do that reporting just automatically with their, so the 3-4 that are in libraries, we would be able to get that.
Good, thank you.
I shared in chat for Big Stone County, that's what we're doing internally for our 3 rooms, is just kind of that Teams room. So another solution that's out there.
Good, thanks. Mary, maybe you could capture that. Thank you.
I just have to make a comment. You know, years ago when Chisago County was Blandon Broadband, we purchased 2 sets of conference equipment, one here and one for the library. And it was so hard to use. Nobody knew how to use it. And the librarians, of course, the one that did know how to use it was never there. Made it really difficult. I think your timing is a lot better, and people just know how to use this equipment now. So times have changed in a relatively short time.
Good. Well, let's go to Stan Chisago then. Katie, do you want to talk about your community broadband survey?
Yeah, for sure. So when we started this project, much like many of you, we had suddenly some money that we had to figure out how to spend, but we needed to figure out where was the energy and who was willing to help. And one of the things that we figured out right away is that we really didn't have an accurate picture of what our broadband landscape even looked like. We had data from providers, but we didn't have data from users. So we started our project out just saying we want to make our own map that's not influenced by somebody who's making money off of this. And we started out when we built a postcard. We sent it to every post office box, every residence in our area. Many of you don't know, Chisago County is the whole county. Chisago Lakes area comprises a number of different cities and townships, but the vague outline is our school district. So just so you have a reference point on that. So what we did is we created a survey and we directed people to go online and take that, but then also to participate in the Minnesota speed test so that we could just get some data to understand what were people's actual experiences. And one thing that we learned a lot. We learned that the provider would say one thing and what the actual experience was very, very different. I've had a number of people, interestingly, just also to point out, when we were awarded this Blandin grant, it was in January of 2020. So think for 1 second about all that's happened in the last 2 years and how we came into this at a time when some of our townships, mostly along with Nancy's handholding and expertise, were working to try to get the Minnesota grants to come their way. Providers weren't interested. There was no federal dollars for this. And then all of a sudden we have this influx of stories of, teachers driving 20 miles away from their home to sit in a gas station parking lot for the day to do distance learning, or people who are used to commuting to downtown Minneapolis are suddenly homebound and trying to use the same data stream as their 3 children who are distance learning, their spouse who's trying to work from home. So we had this microscope that was just put on this right at the same time that we were sitting exactly where you are right now. It was fascinating and really crappy. So we did this survey. And what we did with this project is we continue to do that. We have a so what, now what question all the time. So we have this data. Now what are we going to do with it? And again, kind of goes back to the partnership. We had a really strong team in place. I would say that Nancy and I are probably the 2 kind of staples in that group, but we have a lot of people that we've been able to lean into over the course of this project. And now we have this wonderful data, and we're finding that some of these same townships that couldn't get any providers to pay attention to them for years and years and years are suddenly getting an influx of providers, good, bad, and otherwise, that are saying, use us, sign up with us. And we are, at this moment, just today, we're able to secure Ben Winchester, who's a speaker out of the St. Cloud area, to come and present to our community. The plan is that we will present our findings from this survey, share what we've learned along the way, but then also bring Ben Winchester in to talk about the rural narrative and broadband's piece in the rural narrative, and also just a lot of other things that have to do with living and being well in rural areas in Minnesota.
Good. Thanks, Katie. Eugene, you're just launching a big project in White Earth with elders and devices. Do you want to tell us about that?
Yeah, for sure. So currently, with all Indian nations, we hold our elders, we hold them close. And a lot of times, the elders have a hard time attending meetings and everything. And especially on the White Earth Indian Reservation, our communities are so far spread apart. So our initiative was to get these elders hooked up with, computers, and so they can access these meetings virtually. And I think they had their last elders meeting for the year. I want to say last month, middle of last month, and then so they're gonna not be attending meetings until spring, so it's safer to travel. And what we're going to do, we're going to set up some trainings with these new computers and make sure they're able to use them. And so hopefully next year we'll be able to consult with them year round.
Good.
So right now we have 40 computers along with accessories and applications that they could use. And yeah, our hope is just so we can consult with our elders all year round.
Eugene, I'm so glad to get a chance to hear from you directly about this.
Yep.
Thank you so much for that report. I do have a question for you. So 40, is that is that as many as you need? Did you get 40 for 40? Did you get extras? Are there more? I mean, just talk a little about how you decided how many.
Okay, so availability was a big thing. And we were working with our IT department on making sure that the computers were able to meet the needs that we needed. Let's see, how do you say it? Just to meet their needs and to attend all these meetings and everything, and then along with internet access. But there's a supply chain issue, so then we had to go with these Surface Pros, which are a lot more expensive. But our Council of Elders, and it's a huge council, but we figured, 40 of them, we can disperse them through our community, so 10 in each community. So that's how we came up with the 40.
Thank you.
Good. Thanks, Eugene. And so they, are you buying cellular hotspots for them, or are you hooking them into wired connections where you can, or?
We're trying to do wired connections where we can. Hotspots don't always work. We have a lot of trees here. But yeah, we're working with them on that. But we're just making sure that the 40 that we send out, they'll have the capability to access the internet, whether they're in tribal housing or just their service area.
Okay. And then are other divisions on board to connect, to the elders using the technology now that they have it? Does that, we talk to the human services or other groups that are working with elders to say, hey, the medical folks they look, now these folks are connected, they can do telehealth?
Yeah, so I can't speak on behalf of our public health division, but I know there are talks about scheduling appointments with elders, virtually, but it's just that they don't have the connectivity. But we did partner with our behavioral health division to spearhead this project, along with our IT department.
Good, thank you. Thanks a lot. Barbara, talk about either your Economic Development Summit or the Google Suite work.
All right. I want to talk about the economic development work because it was an unusual Blandon project, and Nancy Hoffman was a huge supporter of us going along this way. But one of the things we found out when we did our initial meetup is that we had a lot of businesses with needs, and without having a county economic development presence, it was pretty hard to figure out how to support our businesses. And then you go through the small business grants from CARES Act, and just a number of things turned up. to where we decided to partner with the Southern Minnesota Initiative Fund and actually do an economic development day at our county fairgrounds. And we had about 50, 60 different people show up for that. And as a result, we ended up with having a great work group that met with the county board. And at the last board meeting of December, they approved an initiative to hire someone from Region 9 2 days a week to put together a plan for having an economic development director at the county level. And that was really great. One of the things we learned is that even that we have two large cities. We have Lesueur, which has its own issues. Then we have New Prague, which is half Scott County, half our county. And then the rest of the cities have economic development directors that are doing a lot of other work in addition. And there really wasn't an economic development presence at that level. So part of what it helped us inspire us on this is we had for our small business grants, we had a provider, Next Stage, out of the Twin Cities that did our economic development support for our small business grants. And his initial report back to the county was, and that we have our businesses are the worst they've ever seen for use of technology and being able to use technology. And I tried to push back and I said, you know, they have accountants and lawyers. And he said, that's who I'm talking about. So we have a lot of work to do. And that same provider is thankfully getting a deed grant and we will know shortly, but we've been written into a deed grant to have them come back and do support for our businesses. So that's just a very exciting initiative and we've so needed it. I want to add a quick comment about our survey. Our survey, which we did 2 years ago now, started it in 2019. I looked at it recently and the last person who did the survey was 2 months ago. We have over 860 people who have done that survey. And we're actually going to do it again because there's been so many changes. We have a lot of, there's just a lot of data there. And being able to do it by cities, I can go to our constant contact list and pick out people in Elysian Township and tell them to go hound their township about broadband stuff. So it's been a useful tool for communication as well. But we are going to redo it. One of the mistakes that we made is we listed out, you can list out your fiber provider, but for wireless, it was just one big bucket. And that's changed so much in terms of who the providers are that we need to know more who they are. And there's different services available now too than there was 2 years ago. So we're actually going to go through the effort to redo that survey. It's been a great tool for us.
Good, thank you.
Yep.
Good. Let's go back up to Ottertail and Amy. And how about your business technology audits?
Yeah. So, and this is one that, you know, as we were talking about it, I'll give Bill some props in the idea of, you know, how we were going to support our businesses. And it came up as we kind of fed off of another cohort's previous work. Now we're able to get actually some materials and contact names. So thanks, Bill, for connecting us with them. So we did what we called tech assessments and then some Make It Happen grants. We put out a request for people to apply who had a need, you know, gave them some ideas and, you know, or had them submit back to us. And we didn't do a heavy push because we knew there was going to be strong demand, and we did certainly get quite a few more applicants. We were able to fund 10 was our plan with this, and we really used it as a pilot because we and now just recently did get a commitment from our county board to use some of our American Rescue Plan funds to continue this into 22 and 23. So we'll be doing more of this going forward. But we had folks identify where they had some need, whether it was upgrading a point of sale system that may be integrated with their inventory, or you know, scheduling software, file sharing, file management. That was an architect that worked within the program to figure out how can they better share their files, to be able to work remotely more efficiently, things like that. So we did have a couple of nonprofits that we worked with. And then, so compared them with a consultant. Our local busing company was one as well, privately ran busing for our schools, but they are updating their website so that there can be an easy interface for parents to report when their students aren't going to be riding the bus. And so to report changes, it used to be you had to call in and they'd take a message and they'd change their route. So upgrading really efficiencies for them. And then looking at how to help businesses just be more resilient. So that was kind of how we reviewed folks who applied. And then, like I mentioned, we funded 10 consultant assessments. So we had 5 hours of consultant time that they worked with the businesses one-on-one to really, the business may have thought they had an idea of what they needed to do, but that may have been not, work to have some professional advice to help them really affirm what that is, and then to put together a scope of what they would be looking for. And we are providing up to $2,000 of matching money to implement that. So again, if it was upgrading their point of sale or website enhancements or social media training, doing a deeper dive in social media, a lot of different unique ideas. So that was really good. Carter will be sending out some surveys, see how can we make it better as we try to expand that program into the next year and a half to do hopefully 30 to 40 more of these and see where else we can take it.
Good, thank you. Thanks for that. Katie, how about maybe I know Nancy was really involved in this, the manufacturing tours.
I'll let Nancy take that one.
Yeah, in the past, over Manufacturers Week, or this year it was Manufacturers Month, in October, we had set up tours for the kids from the high school to go over to businesses and take a tour and learn more about the business. It's just a great opportunity for students to see that there's good jobs in manufacturing, and it could be a really good career choice for many people, as well as we have a labor shortage. And so the manufacturers love getting them in the door, and once in a while matches are made and they end up with a student there afterwards. And with COVID, we couldn't do that anymore. So we hired our local the Chisago Lakes cable communications, and had a contract with him, and he'd go out for us and put together some videos, and he had edited them so they're, there's words that kind of pop out, and the kids would watch those. They're about I'd say about a half an hour, and then they meet with the actual business, with the management or whoever they chose to talk to the students. And so these can be used year after year, until they're too outdated, I guess, and in different schools. So we're able to connect the kids to the manufacturing businesses. We may look at doing some other businesses that aren't manufacturing, but for now we're doing that.
There's a really, they're cool links too. I don't know, Mary or Nancy, it's easy to maybe drop them in the chat box. I've seen them and they're really fun. It makes me want to be a welder.
Yeah, our cable commission person, he's just great at this. He's really added a lot to it. I never pictured him to be like that, but he adds little cartoony things and makes them kind of fun.
A little bit of trivia. He was the very first ever Ronald McDonald.
I'll see if I can
come a long way. Good, thanks. And Barbara, do you want to talk about your Google Suites?
There we go. Okay, so This actually started under our CARES Act funding and has gone on, but we decided to have a government Google suite. It's called lsc-mn.gov. And as a result, we have the emails under that, and we can store a bunch of data there and share a bunch of files there. And it's still a big learning curve just because all the school people know how to use it so well because it's what the schools are using. But it's been really great for us to have. As you know, there's bazillions of maps out there and you're looking for something, and we have a database that is shared. We're bringing on a new communications person. All of that, my data is there for her to share. Previous people's data is there for them to share. So it's a big learning curve to get used to it, but it's been a great tool. And something happens to me, all that data is there. The county has it. So very cool.
How many new users are there for that tool, do you think?
I think we bought 100, and we also have fire and ambulance people using it because they're using it for their carrier. We purchased their CARES Act carrier stuff for ambulances and fire so that they could use internet from there. We have some township people that have it, so and we have emergency services people. So it's quite a laundry list of people that have it. We're hoping to get more township people in there to use it. So it's still introductory phase, but it's a laundry list of people that are in there. I'll have to go back and ask who's actually all on it because it's quite an interesting tool.
Yeah, it's an interesting way to share information across your community.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Good. Eugene, anything, other projects you want to talk about from White Earth?
Yeah, currently we're working on expanding our broadband infrastructure. And yeah, I don't know if you're in Leech Lake, or not Leech Lake, Fond du Lac. We're meeting with them and seeing their whole process, but we applied for a grant to hopefully get the ball rolling on our broadband infrastructure. I don't want to go too into detail with it because nothing's set in stone, but hopefully we'll be able to service, those, like I said, our communities are spread really far apart, and there's some, I guess you can call them dead zones due to our geography here.
I had an early morning drive. I was up in Bemidji, and I thought, well, I'll go right by Itasca Park, and then you go on the north edge of Itasca Park over to White Earth, and I was thinking, oh boy, where am I? Because that was some very beautiful but very wild countryside there, I have to say. So,
yeah,
and I can see the challenge. Thank you. Good. Any other comments or projects that people are implementing, or any questions from the new to the old communities?
I have one more project I could share real quick. We did decide to start one of the things that when we were even applying to become a Blandon community was we had a real need for some digital literacy stuff going on in our community, specifically with some of our older residents. And we were able to hire a local tech company to come up with a curriculum that they have then deployed through our community education. And then we used the computers that we gained from PCs for People to develop some computer labs throughout our community that are staffed now with volunteers in what we call tech labs. So we have classes where people can come and they can learn everything from, how to set up an email to how to not, click on things you shouldn't click on, or how to, execute Zoom or use an iPad or whatever it is. We have classes, but then we also have these tech labs where people can come and they can bring their things, or they can just ask their questions. And it has been wildly successful. It's also been something that has been a real relief, I think, for a lot of caregivers and for the people that are utilizing those services. And one of the things that's so important about the projects, obviously, is that they have some level of sustainability to them. And what's been really wonderful about this is that we were able to pay for the curriculum through our Blandin dollars. It will live on infinitely through our community ed. And then the volunteers are oftentimes being staffed by our National Honor Society kids or Girl Scouts, Boy Scouts, organizations like that. So there's this really beautiful cross-generational marriage that's going on there too. It's really cool.
Cool. That sounds great.
Hey, I had a question. This is Mark from Lincoln County. And we're looking at providing some access points to parks, main streets, those kind of things. And maybe this is the question for some of you tech guys, but maybe not either. We've got monthly costs that, like I say, if we set up an access point in a campground or in a park where moms and dads may be watching their kid or working, how is that handled? And who pays for that monthly? Is the Blandin grant cover that as well?
We, Mark, this is Amy in Otter Tail. We've funded a few access points. So we did pay for one at a county facility with some Blandin dollars for 6 months. And then we checked usage and utilization, and we're still assessing if we'll turn it on for next summer session or summer kind of 6 month that people are at that outdoor park most frequently. So, we would just carry that cost. The equipment was already there from the provider had installed it because there is a large festival there. And so that's held each year, so that the equipment to do it was already there. So it was just a matter of the subscription. And then with a number of those smart rooms that I talked about before, we also did install the access points, but it's up to the local host to fund that. We provided some stipends to either help with furniture or build out or outfitting the spaces themselves, tables, chairs, wireless printers, and or to pay for the additional cost for that access point if they had it split into a separate service. So that's how we, then they know they need to continue that, but provided that stipend to help get them started.
Oh, perfect, thank you. Because that's oftentimes that ongoing cost gets expensive, especially if you push it 1 to 3 years or even longer, and you got all this equipment out there, so you might as well use it. So thank you.
Mary, would you please speak to whether that's an allowable grant expense to Mark's question, the actual fee?
I mean, it is an allowable grant expense if it's at a public place. If it isn't, like if you had a project where you wanted to like help disadvantaged people get internet subscriptions in their house, that's a different thing that we'd have to talk about separately. But if it's in a public use setting like that, it's definitely an allowable expense. And if you can figure out, I mean, sometimes this doesn't work, if you can figure out a way to prepay for a little while. But yeah, I mean, it can only, most of the time you can only do it kind of within the grant period, which is another solid year.
In a couple of instances, in Lisa County, we were able to get the provider to cover it for 2 to 3 years. We probably did 10 wireless sites. Some of them were paid for by the county. Some started up under the Blandin grant, but there were a couple of bigger ones that we were able to get the provider to cover it for 3 years.
Barbara, will you share those talking points, please, with this group? How you talked the provider into doing that for 3 years? Good for you. Vince, you've got a question or comment. Go ahead, Vince. You got your hand up.
Yeah, thanks. I was just curious if any of you have any experience in educational online safety programs for youth, like what to do or not to do. This is one of the things that we're exploring here in Lincoln County.
I've been having conversations with national partners. The National Center for Digital Equity is a good one for safety. That's based out of Maine. There are state partners for these initiatives to provide for kids. I think we've talked previously in the past about community education. I think that's the potential to bring in somebody per se from a telecommunication company. I know I've had conversations with Ardvig to try to find one of their technicians or somebody who does their engineering to provide educational curriculum at a library per se. And that could be geared at that audience. So I think that those are probably the avenues that you want to look at, if I were to say so.
Vince, I think that if you looked at curriculum, if you went to like the Boys and Girls Clubs or 4-H or any like scouting, would most likely have some of that curriculum in place.
This is Barbara. Ironically, when we first started our first big Zoom call and we had all the people we'd never met, there was one of our volunteers who was a registered child pornographer person from another state. And I had a nice conversation with our sheriff about that. And so you could have your sheriff call the Lee Sueur County Sheriff. They have a curriculum that they're doing in the schools from law enforcement. And we just had a really good discussion about that when we chatted about it. And no involvement with him, but yeah, so our sheriff's department, you have them call our sheriff. They're doing it.
Matt here from Big Stone, to go back to Mark's question. One thing that I would look at doing with some of those ongoing costs is looking at like ubiquity point-to-point access points. So anywhere that's a little harder or not really heavily utilized, you know, you could point wireless access points back and forth. You know, we do it with cameras and stuff like that, and those can go miles. So if you can find a host partner that's willing to do that, put an antenna up on their side and put an antenna up on a pole or something in a park that you want to provide Wi-Fi with. That's how I'd tackle that. And that cost is probably, you know, $100 to $300.
Good, great advice, Matt. Thank you. Good. Well, I think, Bernie, that's really our agenda today.
Yeah, it is. And, you know, I'd like to wrap us up in a little blend. And if you guys will hang in there with me, I'm really curious. This is our little attempt to kind of learn what everybody's learning and maybe be interesting for others too. Let's do that snowball thing so people call on each other. And one thing you're taking away or you want to learn more about. So like, what was something that you're going to do or learn more about as a result of what you heard from the other communities today? Barbara, let's start with you.
That's hardly fair. I'm out in Northern California and I'm thinking about going out to drink wine next, but let me go back to the meeting for a minute. I think the big thing is to just keep going and listen to some more great and exciting ideas and keep reinvigorating ourselves. And yeah, we got a lot to do and keep on going. So I'm going to pick on Nancy Hoffman. I'm going to pick on you.
Yeah, I agree with Barbara. I was thinking the same thing. Even though our blend in broadband cohort or project is basically done here shortly, you know, how do we continue all this work and keep it going and keep everybody engaged? And we'll figure out how to do that. I'm sure with Katie's help, we can keep it going.
Nancy, you have to pick someone.
I realized. Shelley?
I think the thing that I'm learning the most is that we're not alone in this, that it's not just our Lincoln County group, is that there are other groups out there that we can reach out to when we need to, outside of just the Blandon people themselves.
Now you have to pick someone, Shelley. Oh, you're muted.
Joe?
Joe.
Can you guys hear me?
We can.
Okay. Yeah, I just been on in my position for a couple weeks now, but the one thing that we are working on is getting those additional pieces and for the Surface Pros, so we can start putting together training sessions for elders in order to get them to familiarize them with the technology. Also get them access to different internet points so they can participate in community councils as well as tribal council meetings. Give them a voice in that process. I took a few notes here, but one thing that I did put down is creating those just for ours, creating a stronger, more robust broadband structure on the reservation to address some of those issues that we're having in regards to dead areas. And also it could be just possibly partnering up with local technology savvy experts in our areas to help us address those, expand those, or getting services to those dead zones. Thanks.
Thank you.
Carter, why don't you go next?
I'm appreciative of the speed test that Matt has shared, and we will be using it. I'll call on Vicki Oakes.
Well, I was really interested in the, I took some notes on the digital literacy for the community, those videos of the businesses and connecting to school. I was really excited about that. I was thankful she put a link in there. I haven't watched it yet. I figured I'd wait till we were done here, but I'm excited to watch it. So it's any of those that are connecting our businesses or our people to get on the technology and what to do and how we can help them with that. So yeah, I was thankful for those.
Good. You want to call on someone?
Sure, Vince. I haven't picked on him in a long time.
Thanks, Vicki. So I'm tasked with, we have one community in our county that's our donut hole for fiber to the premise. And so we need to do some survey work. We have a local provider that's interested in coming in with fiber, but they want to know kind of what the take rate might be. So if any of you have sample surveys that you could send my way, I would be more than thrilled to see those sample surveys that you folks have used for that purpose. And I will call on Matt Anderson.
I would be interested in those surveys as well, because we're looking at some similar stuff with some cities. In addition to that, I guess the big takeaway for me is just definition of broadband. You know, being in the IT sector, for me, broadband's pretty black and white, but as we run through all this, you'll learn everybody definitely has different opinions on what broadband is. So it's interesting to see some of those ideas. And I'm not even sure who's left, to be honest.
I'm going to go ahead and call on Leslie. Go ahead, Leslie.
I had to find my mouse so I could unmute. I'm super curious to see the itemized lists of the equipment they bought for those Zoom sites. I worked with the city of Pine City during COVID to kind of set up the council chambers to do something like that. And that was our biggest stumbling block, was figuring out what to buy. There's so much out there and everybody has an opinion. So I'd be curious to see what Otter Tail County bought and that kind of stuff. But that's what intrigued me today.
That's good to know. Let's see, Joe, have we heard from you?
Yeah, we need to hear from Lisa or Matt or Eugene.
I can chime in. First of all, just appreciative of all the outgoing groups. It's always great and inspiring, I think, to hear everything that's getting accomplished and just some ideas coming from that work. And I think what's a couple of my takeaways and things that that I got from this is, you know, some of the aspects related to the economic development work. Really liked the business technology audits that Amy highlighted, and really that customized approach and that they took with that. And then also too, with Nancy talking about the manufacturing tours, you know, so many of us had great momentum going with schools and making that workforce connection. And so just seeing the creativity there that we're all struggling with workforce right now, and seeing how they took that and was able to implement it during COVID. So.
Good, thank you. Eugene? Or Matt?
Oh yeah, I can go. Mainly I'm just thankful to hear about what other groups have gone through and some of the struggles they've had, and kind of helps you think, helps you push through what you're dealing with up here. Yeah, definitely just a lot of the advice people are giving today. I have a page full of notes that I'm definitely going to be looking back on. And also I kind of casually wrote down most of your names. So in case we do run anything, we can give you a call and see what advice we can get. So thank you.
Good. And we're happy to make those connections in any direction.
Jessica, did you get a chance to check out?
Sure, go ahead. I guess what I am going to take away from today is the connections and just persevere through the 2-year process. And I did find it very useful that not to give up if people drop off in the committee, and to bring that extra friend or reach out to those people that you may not think would be the person to reach out to, but in the end, they're the ones that have the passion about what we're doing.
Good. Well, did we miss anybody? A final word? I think that's it, group. Katie.
I think you missed me on purpose, I'm sure. But,
no, Mark, please.
Mark. I do appreciate everybody's excitement about providing services to their community and to their constituents. And it's just pretty cool because, you know, sometimes you get asked to serve on committee and you think, okay, now this is going to take my time and it's all about me, but it's not really about us, is it? It's really about, especially in this project, making life better for a few more folks than just us. So appreciate everybody's comments.
And I was just going to drop in the chat. We also supported the development of a virtual career fair with the Fergus Falls Public School District. So I'll drop a link to that in the chat, and folks, if they're interested in that format, a little different, you know, various industries and little snippets from them. So check that out.
Katie?
Go ahead, Katie.
Well, thanks. I have said enough. So, but I guess I was just thinking that one thing that I've said many times on this whole journey is that I never knew at the beginning how much I would care about broadband and what it could mean for my community. And I care a lot. And I'm reminded very frequently that this broadband community is very small, but we are very, very mighty. And there's a lot of good work that can happen when you've just got a few key people in place interested in shaking things up for the greater good.
Good, thanks.
I'll add one more here too, with that Minnesota 2026 broadband goal of 125, I think it is. Do we know if there's going to be any changes with the granting, or, I mean, a way for us to voice that 25.3 is getting to be kind of legacy?
So thanks for that question. It's my understanding that currently the state broadband grants can only be spent on projects that are scalable to 100 by 100. They have to deliver 100 by 20. So I think that's something we've been working a lot at the state to make sure that public dollars don't go to build broadband that isn't good enough today, let alone tomorrow. But the governor's, the task force report will be out, was just published today. So it should be up on the DEED website later today if you want to check it out. And with Matt and Vince and Nancy on the call, I can't miss the opportunity to put in a plug for the Minnesota Rural Broadband Coalition, because if you care about broadband policy and legislature investment, that's the group to hook up with, because they're the voice at the state capitol. Vince, I don't think you guys have a date yet for Broadband Day on the Hill, do you? No, but watch for that, because I think sometime in March, there'll be a chance for people to come together and advocate for public investment and what we need to get better broadband.
So D just published its criteria now, the scoring regime for the Border to Border project grant program. They've got a preliminary approval of their stage 1 broadband plan from NTIA for their funding, and their full plan is under consideration now at NTIA. So that, depending on how fast they move, those dollars could be announced to be available quite soon. Then again, the plan is at the federal government waiting approval, so it could be, you know, some time. So we'll have to wait and see, but at least Deed feels they're making progress on the federal process.
Well, good. I want to thank everybody again for your time today. And Katie, you really ended us up on a great positive note about tenacity wins the day, and stick-to-itiveness is the real secret sauce here. So you guys are the folks making it happen in your communities. Thank you for the work you're doing. We're here to help. I mean that genuinely. And Katie, I noticed, but her, you know, said as you keep going, if you've got questions, of course, we want to be your supporters and allies in this work too. So no questions, Dom, no, please see us as your partners and keep in touch, do good work. Have a good rest of the day. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, bye.
Thanks, everyone.